Camp Pendleton, Pacific home to more than 50,000 U.S. Marines. Inside these gates exists a world of regimen, honor, discipline. On the morning of September 20th, 1992, that routine is breached.
A Marine who was off duty. He was on a weekend, I believe a Saturday, and he was out fishing with his son. And it was early in the morning he came across the body in Lake O'Neill.
It's the body of a young woman lying in the reeds less than 50 yards from shore. Vincent Giammi, an agent with the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, is one of the first detectives to arrive on the scene.
The body was actually found in about a foot of water, and she was face up. She was dressed only in a bra and panties, and the panties were down around about her knees. There was nothing else found in and around the scene.
There are no obvious injuries, and the coroner can't determine a cause of death. Toxicology, however, turns up trace levels of cocaine in the woman's system, and semen is found in her mouth. 3 days later, a fingerprint match is made. The victim is 30-year-old Marilyn Allen, a mother of 4 who, according to police, walked the streets to earn her living. Detectives float her picture among the locals in nearby Oceanside.
It just didn't jog anyone's memories, and nobody saw anything or, couldn't develop anything, and we were really quickly running out of leads.
NCIS also runs Allen's face in the Camp Pendleton newsletter, on the chance a Marine might remember seeing her on base. Still, no luck. In time, the case goes cold, and Marilyn Allen's killer fades into the comfortable anonymity of time. Keith Bauer is a lieutenant with the Baton Rouge Police Department. On July 21st, 1997, he takes a phone call from a 22-year-old woman with a boyfriend she believes might kill her.
She was afraid and concerned for her own safety at the time, and I made arrangements for her to come to the office.
Shanice Etienne tells Lieutenant Bauer she and a former Marine named Roosevelt Gibson dated for a little over 3 months, during which time her life ceased to be her own.
He was very possessive, and at first I thought it was, it's kind of sweet, kind of cute. You think, it's just concern.
The cute part of Roosevelt Gibson wore off quickly. Within a few weeks, he fitted Shanice with a pager and demanded she contact him whenever she left the house. Less than a month later, Shanice left a party by herself. Gibson later confronted her in the couple's car.
He just lost it, grabbed me by my throat, started choking me, and he tells me about this woman that he killed.
Just said that he had strangled her and didn't know what to do with her body afterwards. Rode around the base for some time and then contacted a friend of his.
They took her clothes off her and put her body under some dirty laundry.
And they rode around, I guess, trying to decide what they were going to do, and then they decided that they were just going to dump her body in a lake there on Camp Pendleton.
Keith Bauer places a call to Camp Pendleton. The detective has 2 questions. First, do they have a lake on base? And second, did they ever pull a woman's body out of it? Lieutenant Bauer's call is routed here to the Naval Criminal Investigative Service and Special Agent Julie Haney.
We knew we had an open case that started in September of 1992, wherein a woman was found deceased in the lake at Camp Pendleton, and it was unsolved. So we only had one case like that, so we knew we had a match.
Shanice's story matches perfectly to case number 92662. 30-year-old Marilyn Allen, pulled out of Lake O'Neill 5 years earlier. With no physical evidence linking Gibson to the crime, cold case detectives are at an impasse. They believe Shanice Etienne's story, but have nothing more to go on.
We would call it a no-hoper case. There was no forensics. The body was in the water, estimated about 3 or 4 days. There was no leads at all, other than what was said by him to the witness who eventually got to the police.
Swear tracks Gibson to the Casino Rouge on the banks of the Mississippi River. Gibson works there as a maintenance man. The gambling boat provides Swear with perfect cover for an undercover operation. On December 4th, 1999, he approaches management of the Casino Rouge with the idea of putting an undercover officer on board. Swear's best candidate for the job also happens to be his best friend, New Orleans Police Lieutenant and Marine Reservist Jeff Wynn. On January 28, 2000, Jeff Wynn reports for his first shift in the casino. None of his co-workers or immediate supervisors know that the new guy is actually a cop. Wynn and Gibson are both working nights, 3 to 11 p.m. A few hours into his shift, Wynn finds his way back to the maintenance shed. Gibson is waiting to introduce himself, and the game of cat and mouse begins.
Just small talk. I didn't want to go too hot and heavy at first because, it's kind of like fishing. If you go too hot and heavy, you could kind of drive the fish away.
Roosevelt Gibson, however, is eager to talk, and Jeff Wynn just is ready to listen.
Gibson was so comfortable with Jeff and their Marine Corps background and that Marine bond that developed initially when they first met, that Gibson had enlisted him to go into a narcotics sales business with him.
Inside Roosevelt Gibson's head is a space filled with anger and pain, most of it directed at women.
As we started talking, he really kind of made it very clear that he did not like women at all.
With tape recorder rolling, the undercover agent escalates the talk from violence to the specifics of killing.
Let me tell you something. It's a whole different story to stand there and look a mother in the eye. You stand there eye to eye, man to man, with another mother that's got a gun.
When you hear the tape, you will hear a tone change in Jeff because he's reliving an incident that happened in his career and basically talking about having taken someone's life face to face.
Jeff Wynn sits and listens, tape recorder rolling, as Roosevelt Gibson unloads the details of how he choked the life out of Marilyn Allen 7 years earlier.
Like the harder I choked her, the more I got off on it. You know what I'm saying? The more I was like, I'm gonna show this bitch. Don't.
After killing Allen, Gibson tells Wynn he and an accomplice drove Allen's body toward Camp Pendleton and Lake O'Neill.
We had to go on base. We took all our clothes off and then we drug it out and soaked there and put it in the water. Stepped on a little bit, tried to sleep in the mud.
Some 10 days after this recording is made, the Louisiana State Police stage a mock arrest at the Casino Rouge. Jeff Wynn is led out in cuffs on charges of non-payment of alimony. It's an ideal exit strategy for the undercover operative. On February 23, 2000, Roosevelt Gibson sits in Louisiana State Police headquarters, charged with strangling Marilyn Allen. Mike Bradford is given the task of questioning Gibson. 4 hours into the interview, Gibson still denies killing Marilyn Allen. Then Bradford tells Gibson about the sting operation and plays Jeff Wynn's undercover tape. Mike still is charged with prosecuting Gibson. The trial turns not so much on whether Gibson killed Allen, but his state of mind at the time. Did he act with premeditation or in the heat of passion? Murder or manslaughter? The jury opts for the lesser charge, voluntary manslaughter, and the judge sentences Roosevelt Gibson to 11 years. The men and women who worked the Marilyn Allen murder case called it Operation Jambalaya. Like the Creole dish, this undercover operation represented a potent blend of state, local, and federal agents working together under the direction of the NCIS Cold Case Squad. One individual, however, put legs to the case and made it work. Jeff Wynn went belly to belly with a murderer and walked away with a confession. His motivation? A 30-year-old woman with a husband and 4 daughters, a woman who at times lost her way in life, but never lost the love of her family.
Marilyn Allen had 4 daughters. And I think it was important for them to know that when their mother died, one of her last moments was asking about, her daughters. And Roosevelt Gibson told me that.